Buenas. My name is Diego, and this is the You Live Where show. I've been an expat for 10 years now, and it's been the best 10 years of my life. Along the way, I've come across a lot of people who are interested in seeing what my life is about, or they're considering it, doing it themselves. So, the only way that I know how to provide you at home with any type of value is by having genuine conversations with expats, people who own homes overseas, or people who have been on the road for a very long time. So this week I'm talking to Michael. Very informative. He's an expat in Costa Rica. He owns an immigration company. So this is going to be a good one, guys. Enjoy.
Hey, Michael, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for your time, dude. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Oh, thanks very much for the invite. It's great to be able to talk to you in person. Well, in person,
Yeah, yeah. This is all. I'm glad I could see you. Yeah, absolutely, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So, wow, we started in South Africa, huh?
Yeah, born and raised on the east coast of South Africa in a town called Durban. It's like a surf town. And yeah, if you told me when I was in my younger days, just starting out, that I'll be living a great deal of my time in Costa Rica, I would have laughed at your face. I wouldn't even know where to point Costa Rica on the map at those days.
Ah,
But,
So, how did it
but
start, man? How did the travel bug? We'll start at the beginning. How did the travel bug get into you?
So, I mean, I've always loved traveling. So my dad and all that's always loved traveling. So I've been very blessed and fortunate to have traveled, a fair amount in my time. Um, but then how I managed to go to Costa Rica was actually for work. So, the company I worked for, they needed someone to do some training for a client in Costa Rica, but it was, lastminute.com request.
Okay.
I was t told on a Tuesday and got on a plane on Saturday morning kind of thing. Um, and at that time, I didn't have a US visa. So my travels was Durban, South Africa, to Johannesburg, South Africa, to São Paulo, Brazil, Lima, Peru, Costa Rica. Um, so yeah, it's like a three day journey.
Yeah, it sounds rough.
Yeah, and then anyway, I finished the training up. I was coming on the way back and sitting at the airport in Peru. And so at that time, the airport was really small. So it was just like a bar restaurant. There was anything there. So I was sitting there, and there was another lady sitting across the other side of the bar from me. And we just got talking, and there was some other people arrived, and we had a few drinks, and we exchanged emails, and that was it. And then for about 2 years after that, we just kept in contact, just small talk, da 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 da. And then I had a project at work that I was working on for 6 months, and at the end of it, I needed a holiday. And none of my friends in South Africa had time or money to go anywhere. So I contacted, I contacted, her name's Laura. I contacted Laura and said, "Hey, like I want to go into New York, do some traveling. I thought maybe I can come to Costa Rica because when I was there for the first time, I mean, I was working. I just saw the inside of taxis and inside of conference
Right,
rooms. I
right,
didn't
right.
get to see anything." She said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, come." So anyway, I came to Costa Rica. We traveled with some other friends of hers. We actually went to Nicaragua, to
Okay.
Managua, um, and came back to Costa Rica. I went back home to South Africa, and a month later, she came to South Africa. And yeah, we got married and everything else. She lived with me in South Africa for 7 years.
Okay.
Um, and then, yeah, she fell pregnant, and then we had to make a decision. Are we going to stay in South Africa, or are we going to come back to Costa Rica where all her family and everything else is? So I managed to negotiate with the company I work for to, do contract work from Costa Rica. And so, yeah, we moved. We arrived in Costa Rica, and 6 weeks later, my son was born.
Ah,
So,
so she was big
so,
on that move.
oh yeah, 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 yeah. It was rough. They
Yeah.
arrived with what was it? Almost 8 month pregnant wife, six boxes, four luggages, and a dog. That's
Well,
when we arrived
so
in
that's
Costa
all you
Rica.
took with you?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
For everything back at home, did you sell it? Did you put it into a storage
Sold,
bin or you just sold
sold
everything?
it. Pretty much sold everything. I think my dad had like one or two boxes of stuff that thought, oh, we'll when we come back to visit, we'll take back more stuff. But it just wasn't worth it shipping the stuff here. It was just far too
Right.
expensive.
Right.
So it was better just to sell everything. I mean, we just bought a whole brand new house 18 months before, 2 years before, I think. And we
In
just
South
bought a new
Africa.
car in South Africa.
Okay.
I think we just
Okay.
bought a car about 4 months before then, before we, we came. So, as I said to say to people, I said, if you're immigrating to another country, I said, there's two things you need to know. The first one
Yes.
is that when you're leaving the country from where you're from, you've got a whole bunch of work to do to get to zero. So you're at 100. Now you got to get to zero.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And when you're at that point and you're exhausted, just know you're only halfway.
That's good advice. You're giving me real stuff here.
Because when you get to where you're going to, you're now at zero, and now you're going to get to 100.
Yeah, yeah.
You got to get everything sorted out. The
Right,
second
right.
thing is that if got a girlfriend, wife, husband, whatever the story is, both of you have to want to do this, because if
Yes.
only one of you want to do it, you're going to have a whole bunch of problems, because you're going to have challenging times moving. And what you don't want is finger pointing to say, well, I didn't want to be here and you did. So best you sort it out. If you both made that decision, then, you actually work as a team and get through those challenges.
Wow, man, that's good insight. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
immigration is not for sissies.
yeah, very true, man. So how did you have that conversation? How did you guys come to that conversation in your own marriage? How did you decide, hey, you know what, we are going to do Costa Rica? What were some of your
I think there was a lot
checkpoints?
of things. I mean, staying on in South Africa, the trajectory wasn't great as a country.
Okay.
Things weren't getting any better in terms of job opportunities, violence, corruption, all of those things. So from that perspective, if I was single, I would have stayed.
Mm,
It's fine, it's just me. But when you start thinking about, well, I've got a kid on the way, I've got to think longer term. I didn't think the trajectory looked good. And then, from the other perspective, I said, Laura had lived with me in South Africa for 7 years. I should probably go and live in her country for a while too, as well.
okay.
And then, having her family and everything there. But, the deciding factor was that, we can't arrive there and sort of 2 months later have a kid without any job or anything. So that was the deciding factor, is that because I was able to retain work,
Mm,
I was able to go over because we had some stability on that side.
sure, sure. Okay. And what was different? So obviously you had this planned out, right? And you knew you were going to do this. So
Yeah.
you were able to mentally prep. How did you mentally prep for the move? For yourself? I mean, she knew she was going home. So for her, it was kind of something
Yeah.
back to familiar territory. For you getting ready to embark on this adventure, I know you visited and whatnot, but
Yeah. To be honest, I mean, there was just so much to do that
getting from
I
100 to
didn't
0.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you, man.
And there was just so much. There wasn't time to think of, hey, what am I gonna feel? How am I gonna organize X, Y, and Z? It was just literally just trying to lay the tracks down fast enough in front of the train, because I think it was about 3 months after the time we decided to when we actually left. It was about 3 months.
Oh, dude, so you
Uh,
shotgunned it, huh? You were out the door.
just yeah, it was just nuts. I mean, we had to sell the car, and then we rented our house out that we had bought, etc., and we sold all of the furniture. And I mean, there was just so much stuff to take care of. Powers of attorneys to my
Shoot.
dad, at least he could do stuff while I was outside the country if need be. So yeah, I mean, it was just crazy. I mean, and then when we got to Costa Rica, Lars, we stayed at my wife's parents' house for a while. And they were hugely helpful, obviously. But I mean, what I found is you battle with is that, from your home country, you got to go and, I don't know, renew the license on your car. You just intrinsically know how to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just, through your dad or whoever, you've done it. You know how everything works.
Right,
And
right.
when you arrive in a new country, I mean, it's a different language, different culture, and like I got no clue. I don't know. I don't know how to renew a license in a car. I don't know what's required by law. I got no idea.
Okay.
So it was tough. And I explained it to people as well. I said, don't, unless you're very lucky, when you go and immigrate to a country, um, the country that you're going to is not going to be perfect. So you need to know, you need to pick your poison before you go. I mean, you can go and
Good.
say, I'm going to go and live in Switzerland. Fantastic. Trains run on time, everything's spotlessly clean, everything else. Amazing. You're not allowed to flush your toilet after 10 o'clock at night in an apartment block because it disturbs people. So, uh,
Pros and cons.
pros and cons. So you need to be able to accept the cons,
That's
you know,
great.
and coming from South Africa and Africa, where how do I put this kindly, where things generally don't work that well,
Okay.
coming to another country where it works better than what you used to, it's a win, but it's still not like you're living in London or, you know, Switzerland or something. So, the roads aren't great, the
Okay.
traffic is bad and that kind of stuff. But you need to be able to accept it. And if you're a type of personality that is not able to accept it, you're going to find it very hard, you know.
That's brilliant, man. Thank you for that. That's brilliant. Yeah, true. So, okay, moving there, right? What was the biggest culture shock for you when you first got to Costa Rica? I mean, like you said, you mentioned a number of things we'll
Yeah.
unravel, but for you, do you remember just being like, holy shit, like what hit you?
It wasn't, I mean, to be honest, the Costa Rican culture is pretty westernized. I mean, there's a lot of massive amounts of American influence here. So from South Africa, there's not that much American influence. I'd probably say more British influence because of this historical um, history that we had, with the people from England. Um, so it wasn't so much that, it was sort of more the language. The language is difficult. So, like, I mean, in South Africa, there's no one I know that speaks Spanish. It's not like you're coming from the United States where you might have done, high school Spanish, or, you'd walk around, there's a lot of people talking Spanish, etc. Depending where you are in the US, obviously. But, there's just none. There's zero. And I'm not especially good at languages. My worst subject in school was another language. So, but apparently, I got like a engineering background, a computer engineering and stuff like that. So, someone once said to me, it was actually a translator in Japan. She says it's because your brain's wired differently, because you got to have a brain for like engineering. You
Okay,
find languages more difficult. Um,
that makes
so
sense.
like so language was a challenge in the sense that um, I we could be somewhere and there'd be multiple conversations going on, and I would kind of have some idea what was going on around me, you know, just from the hubbub, you get some sense of what's going on.
Okay.
But unless I concentrated and talking to you or two or three people, um, I lost all of that. I lost that sense of what was happening around me.
Okay.
Um, So I found that quite sort of challenging. But as my Spanish has got better, um, I can sort of generally converse okay. But if there's a party of 20 people and everyone talking at once and shouting, like, no, my brain just switches off. Like, I can't. I just can't.
Okay, so you've been there as a tourist before, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So you must have had some idea of what it would have been like living there, right? Is there any
yeah.
difference to you between being a tourist and living there, and has that changed? Is there like when you fantasized living there, what's different when you finally got there and started to live there?
I think, I mean, as a tourist, you very coddled, in terms of. I mean, you don't. The only thing you have to do as a tourist really is enjoy yourself. So
Okay.
you're not particularly stressed about anything. You got to get from place A to B, enjoy B, eat, drink, enjoy. You know what I mean? There's nothing you really have to worry about. But when you go and live in the country, things that appear to be quaint as a tourist become like not that quaint, not that great, like using the roads and stuff, like, wow, this is cool. In a 4x4, we're going that dirt road to get to the beach or whatever it is. Yeah, yeah, that's great as a tourist for like a few days. But like, if you're doing that day after day, uh, not driving on great roads, for example, then yeah, it gets a bit tiring. But
Okay.
I guess that's the case for anywhere that you go, you know. Um, but yeah, I mean, the other culture things was like just shopping and things like that too. I mean, obviously there's proper shopping centers here, but like people buy from smaller places. So if you want meat, you go to the butchery, and then you want bread, you go to the bakery, and then if you want fruit and veg, you go to this place, and if you want this, you go here. Whereas like South Africa is similar to the United States or the UK, is that you go to one big plaza that's got you know
Yeah, yeah,
everything
okay, okay.
that you need, you know.
Right, right.
Um,
Like a
and then
giant
I
ass
went
Walmart and everything's there, right? Or there's several stores
e-
all connected in one area
exa
type thing. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
yeah. Um, and the other thing was, um, went to like public hospital. We had some issue or something, and it was a bit crazy because I'd never really been to public hospital because in South Africa there are public hospitals, but generally if you go there, um, yeah, it's not great. And you go for ingrown toenail and you come out with your arm amputated kind of story. It's like
Okay. All right.
so generally going to private healthcare, and then coming to Costa Rica, the healthcare is excellent. The
Okay.
doctors are amazing. It's really impressive what they do. But again, it's public hospital. So if the hospital's full, I mean, there's people in the corridors, on the time that I was there. So that was like a big shock for me because I'd never seen that before.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, it's not like that. I think it was just that week that I was there. I think there was some outbreak of something, and
Well, we're
and
talking about it, so tell me about the healthcare. Tell me about how you look after yourself.
yeah. So I mean, we on here. It's called La Caja. It's like basically Social Security.
Okay.
And very much drink of water. Um, so yeah, I find it very, very good. So they have a system where they've got like a lot of clinics. They call them device. So there's clinics pretty much local in every area. There might be even a few,
Okay.
and those are like assigned to hospitals. So they're like a feeder to hospitals.
Okay. Okay.
But like for myself, I mean, if you're employed here and you're working here, part of your salary gets to pay that. Um, but like for me, like I got high blood pressure, for example. I mean, I go there, I see the doctor, I don't pay anything, checks me out, whole bunch of blood tests, ECG once a year, prostate exam, the whole shebang. I don't pay for any of that. Well, I don't pay
Okay.
them directly, if that
Direct.
makes
Yeah, it
sense.
comes out of your.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, I get my medication, I get checked up. It works.
So,
It
so the
works
system
really
works for
well.
you. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, look, as in any social healthcare, there are problems. Like, if you need a non-urgent surgery, I mean, you could be in a waiting list for 6 months or something like that. But I mean,
Okay.
that's no difference to the UK or
Anywhere.
Canada
Right.
or anywhere else. But there's also very, very good private hospitals here too. Um, so there's private medical schemes, medical aid here too that you can pay for, and that gives you access to the private hospitals and that kind of thing. So, and depending what's happening, I mean, unfortunately, my son got sick once. We went to a private clinic, got all the blood tests done and everything else, and said, okay, cool, it looks like it's this. And then with those tests, we went to the the Children's Hospital, which is like one of the best in Central America. And the thing that takes the time normally is getting all the tests done. But because we already done the tests, we said like, here's all the stuff. It's like, okay, cool. Well,
Okay.
we need to do X, Y, and Z, and then it was fine.
Okay.
So you can mix and match between the two.
Okay. I know you've been there for quite some time now, but in the beginning, how was your social life? Was it difficult to meet people, to get out?
I'm very fortunate that my wife is quite outgoing and has a
Okay.
has a busy social life. So I think at the end it was difficult for her as well because I mean she'd been away for so many years, um, so it was a time of meeting friends of hers that she used to have and things like that, and then some we met a few times and didn't go any further kind of story, and then other people we met and we became friends with our neighbors at the time, and so yeah. I mean, I've got yeah, a couple of South African friends. One South African friend. We meet up generally once a week for a couple of drinks and stuff, and we've been embarking on making some biltong to see if we can maybe sell them to a couple of bars and stuff like that. For those who don't know what biltong is, it's like beef jerky, but like a million times better. It's like
And it's a South African thing.
yes, sir. It's dried beef.
Okay.
But it's not sweet. It's not sweet like the smoked beef jerky. And it's dried out, and it's got spices and like cumin, not cumin, coriander seeds, vinegar, all that kind of stuff. And it's basically dried out, and then you cut it with strips.
That
But
sounds
it's
good.
delicious.
It
It's
sounds good.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing.
And you and your buddy are
Uh,
thinking about trying to push it in Costa Rica?
yeah, we're just doing it as a hobby at the moment.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So we just
Do you have a lot of expat community? Is where you're at?
in terms of South Africans that are here, the last I heard, and this was a few years ago, there was about 50 of us in the country. Um, so I know of three others personally. There's some others I think are living at Guanacaste and the beach and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, we don't sort of get together that often. We don't really have meetups and stuff like that. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
Okay. What part of Costa Rica are you in? North, south, central?
Central Valley, so in San Jose, in
Oh,
like a
you're
little
in
town
San
called
Jose, the
Escazú.
capital?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're in
Okay.
Escazú, which is like a suburb of San Jose.
And how's that?
That's where we stay. It's great. It's how do I explain it? Um, it's like there's like big malls like Amex Cinema, a lot of restaurants, a lot of expats stay in that area, like in Escazú, and another area that's just outside of Escazú, Santana.
Okay.
Um, so so that's sort of the vibe of the place, like the house. There's a couple of what's it called? Not consulates, ambassadors
Okay.
that have houses in Escazú, like the German ambassador, the US ambassador. They have houses in Escazú, so it's a really nice area. We do a lot of walking, so where we stay, we walk to the cinema, we walk to places
Uh,
all over the place. Yeah,
that's really cool.
yeah,
And of course, I'm sure it's great for the kid too, huh? Your son.
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah.
Uh, uh,
It's great. Yeah.
how's it been raising a kid in a foreign country for you? I mean, like being on the PTA or going to the new kid activities or adjusting to those holidays. I know I threw a lot at you there, but how's it been having a kid in another country? I know
Well,
I could live out on the beach in the middle of nowhere, and I have, right?
mm,
And I don't even know what holiday it is sometimes. You know what I mean? But then
uh,
when I had my daughter, of course, now I'm so much more into the local culture, and it's kind of brought me into even a
uh,
different view than some other expats may have, because I'm raising a kid here, so it's been very unique for me. Do you have a similar experience?
um, I mean, I don't really have anything to compare it to, um, but uh, like for me, it was an amazing experience. I mean, obviously becoming a father and everything else. But then, it also came down to like didn't really know how things worked at that stage. I had like zero Spanish when he was first born. It was challenging,
Okay.
to try and figure out, what to do and all that kind of stuff. But as time goes on, I mean, I think Costa Rica is an amazing country to bring up kids, because I think there's still I mean, it's changing as it would, but there's still some sort of naivety with kids here. They're not exposed to, I don't think, as much as say going to a school in the UK or the US or something like that. So the kids tend to stay kids longer, I
Ah,
think,
that's so
here.
nice.
Um, and so I think it still is like that, but it is changing, with social media and all those kind of things. It does make it more challenging, but I think kids stay kids longer, yeah, than they would say in another place.
That's awesome. That's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
That's a
and the
good
sense
way
of
to explain
community
that.
is much stronger here too, because
There we go.
in
I get that here.
in South Africa, um, you have friends, you'd get together. So, oh, we get together Friday. Yeah, we could get together on Friday, kind of thing. but there wasn't that close-knit sense of community, and especially like the family dynamic is different here because of the culture. It's different to say families in South Africa. Well, I'm generalizing families in South Africa. I mean, there's other culture groups being like, say, the Indian community in South Africa. They're very similar to the Latin Americans in that, family is very important. You stay close to your family and everything else. Where, so I'd say more the Anglo, you know, South Africans, they're more westernized in terms of like, oh, you're 18 at the house, you make your own way kind of story.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I think to be honest, the family dynamic, for all its pros and cons, and there are cons, the pros outweigh it more.
Okay. Okay. Do you still stay in touch with some of your family back in South Africa?
So, I mean, I had all of my family in South Africa, but it was before COVID that my sister and my brother-in-law and her son that moved to the UK.
Okay.
Um, and then in 2022, my dad and my stepmom they moved to the UK as well. So I have no family left
Ah, there's
in
nothing
in
there
South
anymore.
Africa. No.
When you told them that you were going to do this in Costa Rica, how did they feel? Were they cool with it or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were sad to see us go,
Right.
as you would be. But I mean, they understood the reasonings why and everything else, and they were very, very supportive. I mean, they helped a great deal for us to be able to move and everything else.
Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. So what do you do? I mean, you've been there for a long time. Do you still have your job that you went there with, or have you moved up? What's some of your, how do you make money, man? How do you get by in life?
So, I mean, as initially I was on a contract and everything else, and so every time I used to go back to the head office, I used to talk to whoever would listen, say, "Hey, why don't we open up a proper office here, in Costa Rica to do, support and like IT management services and those kind of things." And after a few years, they said, "Great, let's do that." So, um, yeah, I was tasked with setting up a branch office for a multinational company in Costa Rica. Basically, just given some money in the bank and said, "Make it happen." Um, and so, yeah, we built up the office. I think just before COVID hit, we got up to about 22 people or so. We had about another 50 to employ. We just got a new office space all painted and all ready to go to move in. And then COVID hit, and then we sat at home for a few years, and so yeah, there was a restructuring of the company and that kind of thing. So we basically closed the operations down here in Costa Rica. Um, and so basically completed that. And now, so my Laura, who's my wife, had her immigration business for a good few years. Um, and so she's an expert in immigration law and helping companies, people, etc., immigrate to Costa Rica. And so I started getting involved in that business. And so yeah, we're busy working together to grow that business. And yeah, I'm looking for a job at the same time as well. So that's
Okay.
where I'm at the moment.
So you're running an immigration business for the time with your wife,
Correct, yeah.
helping people immigrate to Costa Rica?
Yes, so how it sort of started was that, I mean, Laura was an immigrant in South Africa when she lived with me. And there was a lot of challenges around that and a lot of red tape and bureaucracy. And then when we came to Costa Rica, I was an immigrant here. So we're coming from the perspective is that we understand the challenges and feelings of people who are coming to another country because we've done it ourselves. Um, and so, Laura is a lawyer and she specialized in this. So for quite a few years now, she's offered the services to, as I said, to many companies and individuals and everything else. With the idea of is providing people with great service and also empathy and understanding about what they're actually going through to try and move to another country because we understand it's not easy. Um, so as I said, yeah, so that's what she's been doing. I've been assisting her, in the background. But now I'm sort of more focused on dealing directly with clients, those kind of things while I find my next challenge myself.
Okay. All right. And in the immigration business, what kind of services do you, I mean, outside of just consulting, what kind of services do you offer? You said your wife's an attorney. Can she help me can she help someone through the process?
Yes, no, that's exactly right. So I mean,
Okay.
we would have meetings with the client, and one of the things that are important to us is to understand what is the long-term goal, you know, because sometimes we talk to clients and they say, oh, I'm gonna want to live a few months in the US and a few months in Costa Rica. I said, well, you got any kids or anything else? And they say, no, 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 I'm just going backwards and forwards. It's like, well, then there's no point in residency because if you're going to be coming backwards and forwards, there's no long-term goal.
All right.
But if your longer term goal is like, hey, you know what, I want to stay in Costa Rica or I've invested, I bought some property here, and I want to be on a path to get permanent residence or a path to get naturalized, at some point in the future, that's my goal.
Okay.
Then, obviously we help with those kind of things because there's many different types. You can apply as a pensioner or as an investor in shares or properties, or if you've got income from rents or dividends and shares, and if you've got a company in Costa Rica, as a legal representative, there's many different ways of becoming a temporary residency or permanent residence if you've got a kid born here in Costa Rica or something like that. So, we help people with many different options, many cases.
Is it complicated? Say a pensioner visa process or an investor's visa process. Are they? Because
Mm.
those are probably two of the most common things that you would deal with, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Would you say that are they complicated process, or is it? Look, I know there's paperwork and bullshit every country in the world. Let's not be naive to
Yeah.
that. Every government wants every government wants their paperwork. But I mean, would you say it's a little bit easier than some other places, or if it's complicated, what would you tell me?
No, I would say it's not easy, and I wouldn't say it's super complicated, but it's fairly complicated.
Okay,
One of the reasons being is that, as I explain to clients too, is that it's one thing knowing the law. The law says you need to do X or present this,
sure.
okay? But it's understanding how immigration is interpreting that law right now.
Mm,
That's where the trick comes in, because the law says one thing, but then they have immigration come back. It's like, well, previously we interpreted to mean this, and now we're interpreting to mean that.
okay,
It's the same law.
sure.
Nothing's changed in the law, but it's how they're interpreting it.
Oh, okay, I get you. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So you come in and you say, oh, okay, I need to do X, and you do X, but because you haven't done X with a specific way that immigration is expecting it, then your case doesn't go through.
Okay.
And it's also changed in that previously immigration used to do something called preventions. So, for example, we presented a case or something, and I don't know, there's a spelling mistake or something silly, that's wrong. I mean, everything else is correct. I mean, all of the documentation is there. Everything is there to prove whatever we need to prove, but there's some small technicality. They used to do a prevention to say, okay, look, we found an error. You've got 10 business days to resolve it.
Okay.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll get it all sorted out and we'll give you the updated whatever, and off we go. But in June last year, they changed it. So if there's the smallest error, like a
Start
comma or
again.
a full stop missing, the whole case is thrown out and you start again.
That's tough.
So yeah.
Okay, so it's
And
definitely
so
so it's definitely better to hire somebody and go down the road with somebody.
correct. I mean, as I said, I mean, you're paying for a service. So the idea is that, you're making it someone else's problem to deal with, which
Hmm.
is us. And it's our responsibility to think of all the details and things that might be missing or whatever. Um, and so, you take that off your plate, especially if you're moving, you're making it someone else's problem to deal with. But the other thing too is that you're going to have a higher chance of getting your application approved. Um, and
Sure.
if you can think of the expense and time and effort is to get documents, you know, the admin side to get all that done, how much is that worth to you if you have to do it all over again? Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Fuck that noise. Okay. What
Yeah,
have been some of the greatest challenges that you've seen your clients come up against?
sure. I mean, some of them are the amount of time that it takes. So sometimes, it's taking like a year to get a
Okay.
response back from immigration. Um, so sometimes it can be a bit challenging because, I mean, you can open a bank account with a passport here in Costa Rica and certain banks, but you're very limited. I mean, you've got like $1,000 limit. It's very difficult to transfer between different banks. You can transfer from that bank to another bank. Um, so things like that, life is sometimes can be quite difficult to manage until such time as you've actually been approved and you can actually get your temporary residency, and then things become a lot smoother.
Okay. All right.
Even like stuff, I mean, you to try and get the loan from the bank to buy a car, it's almost impossible to get, until you've got your residency.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. So, as far as you working in Costa Rica, have you noticed that the work culture is different for you? Like working in South Africa and then working in Costa Rica, dealing with the processes and the clients and everything, is it different for you?
Um, there are some differences. I think, Costa Rica has had like a lot of multinational companies here, over time. Um, and I think there's been like people generally jump around a lot, going from company to company, obviously, to further their career, obviously get increases and things like that. Um, and so again, maybe that's just from my point of view, but like in South Africa, people generally stayed sort of longer in a company. And um, and sort of grew inside that company, say more than jumping around a lot. But I think that's just the nature of the market here, where you in South Africa you have a lot of homegrown businesses, so businesses that are South African companies, generally the large ones. Where I think a lot of the larger companies here in Costa Rica are multinationals. So you've got like Microsoft and a lot of these companies that are employing a lot of people here. Um, and so it's kind of like a different feel, when you're working for like a larger company. You have potentially more opportunities to move around and to get jobs at other places. Um, Whereas like in South Africa, although the market is bigger, we don't have that, I would say, not that many multinationals, but it's I don't know, it's just a different vibe.
Okay.
It's difficult to put into words.
Okay. Okay. So what does a typical day look like for you?
I mean, at the moment, generally, at the moment, I'm basically applying for jobs and those kind of things, hopefully doing some interviews, but also, setting up appointments with prospective clients, chatting to them about their options, getting them, quotes and that kind of stuff. The clients have already signed up. We're busy putting together all the documentation, following up, and working on those cases, putting all those cases together, those kind of things. I'm also a dad as well, so taking my son to basketball practice or those kind of things, and so that's how I basically keep busy in my days these days.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So you're in your area. Is there a hidden gem that you could give me, like your favorite restaurant, something that's off the beaten path or anything like that? Do you have a favorite place that you could give to us?
Well, close to where I live, in Escazú, there's a bar called Chubb's, and it's like a very much like an expat bar. So I mean, there's TVs all over the place, all different types of sports and stuff.
Okay.
But it's really cool. Is it's like really laid back, um, like the good pricing, like the most amazing jalapeno poppers you've ever eaten in your life before.
Awesome.
And but it's just, I mean, the people that work there, the ladies behind the bar and stuff are just so friendly and everything else. So it's like that TV series Cheers, like everybody
Okay.
knows your name. You come there, hey, how's it going? Da, da, da.
It's like Cheers. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a cool place to hang out.
Okay. Um, What have you learned about your culture where you're at now that outsiders may not pick up?
I mean, like Costa Rican culture.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I would say that generally, like Costa Ricans, are very friendly. They're very opening, very welcome, and that. But when you come to live here, it can be sometimes challenging to get like a group of friends, um, because like the group of friends that say they have is from high school or university or college or something. They've grown up together, so it can be quite cliquey at times. So I'm
Okay.
not saying that people are not inviting or friendly. No, no, the complete opposite. What I'm saying is that, they'll be very, friendly and open and everything else, but it's not like they gonna maybe invite you to a barbecue next Sunday.
Okay.
Saying because you're not part of that group yet. So um that when we initially came here, that was a bit challenging, um, because as I said, Laura had been out the country for 7 years, and I'd never been here, so people had sort of built their own groups, and so it sometimes was a bit challenging to sort of get into those groups and things like that. But I think we've settled in after a little while and that kind of thing. And one of the things I actually wanted to say to you earlier was coming as some of the feelings when you get when you I found immigrating is that I said, you kind of live in this gray area because you don't feel a part of where you've come from, and you don't feel a part of where you are now. So you like in this gray zone where
Okay.
you feel disconnected from where you come, and you haven't yet connected to where you've gone. And so it can be quite challenging, because you feel a bit lost. You don't have a base.
Okay.
But it takes, I'm guessing people are different, but I generally say to people, if you're immigrating, stick it out for 2 years. If after 2 years you're still desperately unhappy in that, well, then maybe it wasn't for you.
How did you
Um,
overcome it?
I think, I mean, you just plug away at it. You just have to get up each day and figure stuff out. Like the car thing I was telling you, the license. Okay, well, how do I do it? Oh, I don't know. Like we'll start talking to people. Like, oh, okay, well, I need to do this, you need to that. Go, well, you get a number, you phone, you have to, everything is 10 times as hard the first time you do it because you haven't done it before. But the
Sure.
next time you do it is way easier, and then it just becomes second nature. You just figure it all out. But generally I've found like, for 2 years, um, after that you feel a part of where you live now.
Okay.
You've kind of picked up some of the language. You got sort of the culture, some of the culture. You understand how the world works where you are now. You maybe made a few friends, and so life becomes easier. You know, but the first year or two might be challenging because, as I said, you've got to figure all this stuff out.
Okay. Right, right. If you could go back, and I know this is a while ago, but if you could go back and teach yourself one thing about what you were about to embark on, what would it be?
Um, I'd probably say sort of be kinder to yourself.
In what sense, man?
In the sense that talking as a guy, as your general role as a provider and things like that, um you always one that you think that you're always the one that has to have everything figured out, you know that you got all the answers to everything, and moving to another country, you kind of realize that, what, I don't have all the answers. I don't know how to do everything, and I actually need to reach out for help to figure these things out. And so what I would say is that, have some patience with yourself, your partner, with everything, as well as, be kind to yourself, because it's a big thing. It's not something small just to pack up everything and go to another country. As to just be a bit kinder to yourself, like just cut yourself a break. Like, what, I'm not going to get it right today. Maybe tomorrow is going to be a bit better, you know.
Okay. All right. All right. Do you have a wow moment? So like, do you ever
Uh,
just stop? I know you've been there for a while, but I've been here for 10 years and there's still times where I stop and I look around and I'm like, holy shit, this is my life. This is awesome where I am. I'm very fortunate. Do you have that moment?
I do. I mean, sometimes when we're traveling around or be able to do simple things like, just walk to the cinema or things like that. Um, you walk past the beautiful flowers on the way that you're walking and you think, wow, that's really pretty. Um, but strangely enough, sort of the wow moment for me wasn't actually in Costa Rica. It was actually in South Africa. But it made me think of Costa Rica. So, I'd been going to South Africa for work, and I think it was in year two or year three or something. And I was in South Africa for a couple of weeks. And I got to the stage where I was actually missing Costa Rica. I was missing gajapinto for breakfast in the morning. I was, missing all that kind of stuff. And it was at that moment that I realized, like, you know what? I'm actually my home is there, is not here anymore. You
Wow.
know, and that was a wow moment for me. It's like, you know what? I'm missing being there. You
Sure.
know, and then and our friends and stuff in South Africa said, "Oh, it must be so great to be back home again." Being in South Africa, I'm just
Uh,
like, "No, this is not home. There's home.
all
I'm
right.
visiting here."
All right.
So that was like a realization that, and it happened outside of Costa Rica, because you take
Okay.
things for granted. If you always live in front of the beach, you're like, the beach. But
Yeah.
someone exactly, if you live in a city all the day, going to the beach is incredible. It's amazing. Um, so I think sometimes you have to be removed from that to understand how amazing it is.
That's a good point. Very true. Um, okay. Give me your plug, man. Tell me if there's a business that you want to put me up on right now, what would that be? Give me the plug.
So yeah, our company is called Immigration CR, and we offer sort of full immigration services. For people who are coming from the US, we actually are able to do their fingerprints and get their marriage certificates and birth certificates actually while they're in Costa Rica. We can process all of that sort of digitally for them. And then, yeah, I mean, we offer amazing service. We're always following up with clients. We generally use WhatsApp a lot to keep communications open with the clients. And yeah, we love to help people to settle in this beautiful country and take the minefield of all the admin and of immigrating out of the question.
That is really cool, man. What I'll do is I'll get all your information and I'll have it in the comment section. So at the end of the show or whenever people want to check it out, it'll be there. All right. And
That would be awesome. Thank you.
yeah, of course, man. My last question for you. So there's a young guy and he's thinking about moving to Costa Rica and he's seen this story. Do you know what I mean? He's seen your video and
Uh-huh.
what advice can you give him? He says, you know what, Mike, tell me, man, what can I do? What would it be? Because you got a lot of advice, man. You got a lot of gems.
I mean, I think it's depending on who the person is. I mean, if it's a young single guy, I said, it's an amazing place. I mean, we had some people coming from South Africa who worked for a company here in Costa Rica, and they had an absolute blast. I mean, it's just incredible. As I said, the people are friendly, amazing food. It's just an amazing place to be. I mean, even as a pensioner or someone coming up sort of a midlife with kids and stuff, I said it's an amazing place to bring up kids. Yeah, the lifestyle is more laid back. It's a bit more, you know, um, tranquil. It's not that fast paced. Um, so I think Costa Rica's got a huge amount to offer. As I said, the people, the healthcare, you know, everything else that here is big positives in my book. Okay.
So, Michael, man, it's been a pleasure having you on my show, man. Thank you so much. You're an absolute inspiration, man. You've lived a great life. Thank you so much for taking your time and talking to us today, man. Really, I appreciate it.
No, it's great. It's been good fun sharing some of my experiences with you and your listeners and viewers. And the biggest thing I want people to take away is life is an adventure, and we got one of those lives. So if you want to do something a bit crazy sometimes, go and do it.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Michael, man, that was awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, man. Very informative, very positive. I wish you nothing but positive vibes. To my viewer at home, if you have any questions for some of my future guests, just put it in the comment section. Give me a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in 2 weeks.